Welcome to the Whole Career Podcast with Advent Health. I'm Brandon Strawn, and I'm joined by my co-host, Sky Kellogg.
Each episode features conversations with various healthcare professionals who will share their personal career journeys, insights, and perspectives on various healthcare careers. From nursing to technology to leadership, we'll cover a wide range of topics to help you stay informed and inspired.
Whether you're just starting out in your healthcare career, looking to pivot, or a seasoned professional looking to take the next step, this podcast is for you. We hope to empower you with the knowledge and the tools needed to make a positive impact in your field. At Advent Health, we believe that we are greater as a whole, and we invite you to join us on this journey as we explore the world of healthcare careers together. Welcome back to the Whole Career Podcast with Advent Health. We are super excited today. We have a guest. Her name is Yolanda Milo. She is a case management coordinator. How are you doing today, Yolanda?
I'm doing quite well. How are you guys doing today?
Good,
Awesome.
thank you.
Alrighty.
Awesome. Cannot complain. Would you mind just formally introducing yourself and giving us a brief overview of your current position with Advent Health?
Yes, so my name is Yolanda Milo, and I am the case management coordinator for Advent Health Zephyr Hills Hospital and Advent Health Dade City Hospital as well. I work very closely with the case management director. I am her direct assistant, and I also get to work with my wonderful case management team who deals with discharge planning for patients when they come into the hospital from the time that they are admitted into the hospital to the time they leave, and even after they leave, case management department deals with all of their discharge needs on that end.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yolanda, we are so excited to talk with you today. This area of case management is something that we have not yet covered in our podcast series, so we are thrilled to learn more about it. So if you could just share with us how you learned about case management and how did you know that this is the career that you wanted to pursue?
So my first time learning about case management from the whole time I was at Advent Health Hospital, which is in 2015, if I'm not mistaken, when I was hired, I really didn't familiarize myself too much with case management until 2020 or 2021 when I was working on the orthopedic unit as a unit clerk. And that position actually gave me an opportunity to see the way every clinician works, like I was at the forefront. I was watching physicians, I was watching nurses, renal dialysis, how everybody did their job. And one of the parts was a case manager. Each floor or each department is assigned a case manager. Of course, orthopedic had their amazing case manager, and we collaborated a lot because as a unit clerk, I was responsible for making sure patients had their discharge packages ready when it was time to get discharged to go home. I answered the phone, just the clerical part of it. That also included me setting up transportation if needed for patients. And case management plays a big role in that as well, because on their end, if a patient is needing assistance with transport to a skilled nursing facility or to an ALF or an LTAC, they are in charge of that part, whereas in the unit clerk is in charge of setting up transport for home. We started speaking a lot. I started speaking a lot to our case managers because I was curious. I was like, well, you have on these beautiful colors. What do you do? What's your job about? And they started talking to me about it. And I wanted to learn more. There was just something about case management and what they were doing because I had already had my bachelor's degree in healthcare administration. And I was just looking at them and just seeing the way they worked. And I was like, there's an administrative part to this, not only bedside, it's a collab of both worlds. And that got me interested. So I started to talk to the case manager at the time more. And I asked her, I was like, is there a way of me helping out with what you do a little bit more? So she offered me an opportunity to start setting up transports for skilled nursing as well, which is a little bit more technical than just setting up transport for patients to go home. And that's how I became more familiar with case management, is just collaborating with her. I reached out to her and she was like, yeah, sure, you can see what I do and how we do it. And this is what you do. And from time to time, they would rotate different case managers if they were off, and they were also helpful. They were always there, like, do you want to learn this? And do you want me to show you how to do that? So apart from me also being a unit clerk, I was also learning at the time how they did their job and what they did. And I'm one of those people, I love to learn everything. I will, any opportunity I get to learn something, I want to know. If a doctor says, hey, I need a volunteer, you don't need to experience, just stand here with me and watch how I do the surgery, I'm there for it. Like, I'm that person. So I was able to get that opportunity to learn a little bit more. I didn't know at the time I wanted to be a part of the case management team. I just knew that I had my bachelor's in healthcare administration and I wanted to continue in that route. And I was given the opportunity to be a unit clerk. And I knew I wanted to do more. I wanted to advance my career. And my friend reached out to me at the time, and she was asking me about my bachelor's degree and how much longer I had with my degree. And I thought it was because she wanted to advance in her bachelor's degree. At the time, she was working in case management as well. And she asked me how much longer I have, and I said, about 3 months or so. And she was asking, do you have any other plans? Do you think you want to do anything else? And I'm like, honestly, I'm not sure right now. And at the time, she told me, listen, I'm going to be transitioning into a new job, and I think you should apply for the case management position because you've been helping us out. We've been hearing things about you working with our case manager in the department. So I think you should apply because they've been talking about you. So that's how that collab actually came to the forefront.
That's amazing. And you just staying curious and asking those questions, getting you to where you are today is such a wonderful reminder to just be observant of everyone around you, because you never know what that next step could be unless you ask those questions and stay curious. So I love that. I love that you landed where you were supposed to be because you put yourself out there. So thank you.
Thank you.
So I want to just backtrack a little bit because I do see that you have on what looks like scrubs, right?
Yeah.
And so for those that are tuning in, to YouTube, they're like, okay, she's talking about case management. She said her bachelor's in healthcare administration, and I'm just like, okay, wait, is she a nurse or is she on like the case management side from a social worker perspective?
Yep.
And I'm saying all of this because I studied for my bachelor's, I studied social work. So when I hear case manager, right, I was a case manager, but I did not work in the hospital, right? I worked for the state,
Okay.
and I worked with children, right, and children and families. And so that's my background, right? But as far as just taking us through, okay, so do you have a clinical background? Are you an RN? What type of education and skills? Because you did mention that you were in the hospital seeing these things, which Sky mentioned is awesome, that you kind of just inserted yourself and jumped in, and they were like, okay, we gotta promote this person, or we have to look out for this person. But can you just take us through kind of what credentials you have and kind of like as far as your education, what your background is?
So, yes. So, at my time with Advent Health Zephyr Hills, I'll just go back a little bit further. When I first got hired at Advent Health Zephyr Hills, I was hired into the food service department. Um, my first application that I applied to with Advent Health was to work in the dish room. I applied to be in the dish room to be a dishwasher, and I got there to the interview, and I sat with the hiring manager, and we spoke for a while, and he was like, you know what, your personality fits more of a catering associate, and I have a position open there, and that's where I want you. Would you be willing to change? And I'm like, of course, absolutely. He's like, have you ever worked in healthcare? Have you ever worked in food service before? Never. I've never done any of the two before in my life. So he was like, all right, I'll let you know. It's not easy. It's not going to be an easy job. You're going to have, so many people, patients, everything coming at you at once. And I was like, you know what? I know for a fact I want to be in healthcare. I don't know what I want to do as yet, but I know this is the stepping stone to get there. I was in food service, the catering associate for a year, and then I got promoted to dietary supervisor, I think within 2 years of being in the food service. And I stayed there for a very long time, about 5 years. At that time, I had decided I wanted to go back to school. I went to Kaiser, and I wanted to get my bachelor's in healthcare administration. And the reason I ended up choosing that background, at the time, I was going back to school to work in food and nutrition and to be a nutritionist. That was my first initial decision was I wanted to go back and get my bachelor's in food and nutrition because I was working in that environment at the time, and I was like, this is what I want to do. This is awesome. Come to realize I was not very well at chemistry and physics and everything else that they needed. And that was kind of like a step back for me. And the demand that the school needed from me to balance work life and school life, it was just not collaborating. So I had to take a step back, and I went to my counselor at my school and I said, I want to stay in healthcare. I want to stay with this job. I want to stay in healthcare. I want to stay with this company. And I need to find a way that my school can help me to continue my career in healthcare. I said, it was never my passion to be a bedside nurse. I want to just continue in administration because that's what I love to do. So we came up with a plan, and it was my bachelor's in healthcare administration because it was fully online. It was a full-time online, so I was able to work and go to school and not have that much stress at that time. And that's how I ended up doing 4 years of my bachelor's and getting my bachelor's in healthcare administration. At the time when I was doing that, I had no idea how I was going to transition from food service to getting on the floors and being a part of that clinical team, to be a part of administration, because you need some sort of experience, which at the time all I had was food service experience. So it was a little difficult time back then, because I was like, how are you transitioning? So I had to come up with a plan. So what did I do? I decided to go back and get my phlebotomy certificate, because that was going to get me closer to being near clinicians, to see how they work, to see how they operate, to see, to get myself into that department. And just as I got that phlebotomy certificate, I applied for the orthopedic unit, and that's how I got into the orthopedic unit. So with my bachelor's degree, that was the storyline of me getting my bachelor's in healthcare administration. And that's my first degree I've ever gotten, other than being in high school, is my bachelor's degree and then my phlebotomy certificate.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So like, and some of our audience, or a good chunk of our audience, are people who are looking to pivot into a new career, or just exploring a career. And I think you hit so many things for our audience right now. Like, not only with the last point you talked about, once you get that degree, right, what is the next step? How do I get closer? Like, how can I make sure that people see me, that I'm present, and just giving yourself the best shot at an opportunity to actually use your degree. And that's a skill, right? So you said, okay, well, and you strategize that, right? Like, it seemed as that was like a strategic, intentional thing that you did. And so I'm honestly just amazed by that. And kudos to you, because not many people are thinking like that, right? They may say, woe is me, I'm not able to do this. But like, you sought after phlebotomy and made your way onto the floor, which of course allowed for you to be seen and to get that clinic experience. So that's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that story.
Thank you.
Yeah, Yolanda, did you ever think you would be in phlebotomy? Like, I don't know. I'm just thinking of myself being someone who's obviously not on the clinical side of things. I would not have ever put myself out there to be a phlebotomist just to get in touch with clinicians. So was that something that was a little scary to you at the time, or did you were just so determined that you just knew you had to do it and there wasn't another option?
It was a little bit of both.
Okay.
I knew I had to make that move, and sometimes that's just part of how life is. You want something, you have to go after it, and sometimes we have to make decisions or do things that is not for us at that time, but we need to do it to get to that next step. And that's just, it's never going to always be easy. It's never going to not have bumps and stops and blocks on the way. That's just the beautiful part of it, because in the end, then you can look back at that and be like, yes, I did that when I thought I didn't have it in me. Because like you said, I never worked in healthcare, coming from applying to be a dishwasher all the way up to where I was at. I don't like needles. I never liked needles, but I knew that the opportunity was there. So I went online and I was like, all right, what areas can I get a certificate with that's not going to take me more than a year to get? and my job is offering right now? Where is it that it's high in demand right now, positions that I'm able to get without having to get an RN degree, or being at tech, that I'm able to get into for this time until I can figure out, okay, what's your next move after that? And it was phlebotomy. I went on, I saw that they needed the phlebotomy, and the positions were always open. And I went to see the schools, how long it would take, and then financially, how would I be able to afford that as well on my own, because that was going to be out of pocket as well. So as Brandon said, yes, it was a strategy of, all right, you have to make the next move because school, you're about to graduate. And I wanted to have that experience still during the time of me not even graduating or finishing graduating as yet. I wanted to have that experience. So when I stepped into an interview, at least I can have that with me. It's not always going to be like that, but that was my plan. That was my strategy for myself. So I would recommend that to everyone as well, to let them know, like, listen, it's not going to always be a smooth sailing or a smooth road, but just always be a step ahead. Always come up with a plan, or always have a plan A or a plan B if needed, if things don't go the way you plan.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. I think there are so many pieces of information that our listeners and viewers online can see and learn through you that they can implement in their lives. So I think that speaks for itself. But thank you for that, Yolanda. And if you could just share what others should be aware of before they work in case management. What are some of the highs and lows of being in that role, so people can understand if that's the direction that they want to take their career in as well?
So in general, just aside from me being a coordinator for our case managers, because on my side of it, what I deal with is on the back end of the administrative part, the clerical part. So I make sure that the case managers have everything they need within their office, within our system, and it runs smoothly for them. And that includes, the most important thing of my job is to get on the phone with those insurances and make sure that, the offs and the authorizations for these patients to get the care that they need is clear, that they have that, the backing that they need for, if it's skilled nursing or oxygen or home infusion. I'm on the phone with the insurance, finding out, like, hey, do we have everything we need? Are we good? Green light to make sure that they have everything they need. This also includes me dealing with the invoices, making sure that all of our vendors and suppliers get paid, and then whatever bill comes in through us, that we are getting charged correctly for everything that we're getting charged for. This also includes setting up meetings and appointments with our vendors, new community personnels that want to collaborate with Advent Health as suppliers, like I said, whether it be oxygen or medical equipment. So that's my part of it, making sure that printer has papers at all time. So, or any technical problem, troubleshooting with their computers. If I can't fix it, I make sure I send a ticket out to IT to make sure everything is just running smoothly in that office, including for my director. So that's my part that I play. But for our case managers, they are the network of the hospital. They deal with a lot of barriers a lot of times. There's a lot of pushback that they get. That is part of the case management job. And it comes from many times from the insurances, because if you think about it, there's so many government policies that change constantly. There's so many businesses that get bought over, or just new owners, and they change rules and policies, and they change daily. So case managers are the forefront of that. They deal with that first, so no one else really has to deal with that, because there's so many other, like, for instance, the clinical side with the RNs and bedside. They have to make sure that patient is taken care of right there, right then. But afterwards, when it's time to go home, when it's time for that additional need for them to get discharged, they're going to need a wheelchair. Sometimes they need a walker. Sometimes they need skilled nursing. This is what case management takes care of. And a lot of times it doesn't go smoothly, because a patient might have insurance that covers home health care, but that patient needs skilled nursing. They need additional, medical attention, and the insurance doesn't cover that. The patient doesn't know that sometimes. So the case manager is there as an advocate to fight for that. Like, well, what do you need from us to make sure that they get what they need? And then you'll have at times where, not everyone understands, like, the complexities or the timeline of how long sometimes this takes. And they're like, well, we want it now. We need to get it pronto right now. we need to get it done. So having to deal with the insurance part of it, vendors, you deal with doctors at MDRs, you deal with nurses that need help with stuff, you deal with family members that call on the phone, or patients who call on the phone after being discharged who still needs additional help. Like, where do you route them to? How can you help them? So there's a lot of high expectations and demands of being in the case management department, because not only is it sometimes the bedside that they're there with the patient, but you also have to deal with the administrative side and making sure everything runs smoothly for everyone, the doctors, the nurses, the family members, the patients, the vendors, and your bosses, to make sure that those numbers are also, running correctly.
That's amazing. And so basically what she's telling you all is that she is the person that a lot of people bring their problems to as the coordinator, right? And you're having to kind of triage that stuff and just figure out, how to make their lives easier. So that's awesome. And I can imagine how much, as a case manager, I know you're a management coordinator, but for the case managers, how much they deal with families. And right. So for our audience listening, right, if you're thinking about families, right, outside of the hospital experience, okay, maybe that family may be okay to deal with, but I'm thinking about, people who have their family members in the hospital, what that family is going through, how they're thinking, right? It cannot be a smooth process, right? Because everyone knows that if you're in the hospital, it's usually for something that can be scary, at times. And so I definitely can see how that can just be really vital and important to a hospital, especially because you guys are representing the hospital even after like the surgery or whatever care has been given. And so even how you represent the hospital is really key. I wanted to ask, as far as I know you mentioned, not having to get your RN and things like that and being really successful. Is that a prerequisite? Is that something that is suggested, or you can absolutely become an entry level case manager without getting any type of like RN or anything like that? I just want to make sure our audience knows that.
So from the case management perspective, yes, you do need your RN, um, at least your associates in RN, to get into that case management role. Um, I'm not sure about the LPN, because I know we've just recently introduced LPN into our hospital. I do know, though, from just the interviews and going through that process and watching how my directors go through the hiring process, and with recruiters, you do need at least an associate's degree as an RN to get into that case management position. You most definitely do.
Okay, so entry level, it's associates as far as education.
Hmm.
Okay, cool. And then they can grow from there.
Yeah.
So I guess my next question would be, you mentioned that you shared that you prayed for this role that you're in now, but you didn't get this role on the first try. So, how did you stay motivated? And can you talk to us a little bit about, like, how you were able to jump back after having that setback?
Yes. So for me, at the time when I applied for this position, I was still working in food service. I was still working in food service as a dietary supervisor, and I just applied for it on the whim. But I did have my expectations very high for that role when I applied for it, because I thought to myself, like, you've been with the company this long, you're about to graduate. So I did not leave any leeway room to say, like, oh, you're not going to get it. And if you don't get it, just, accept that at the time when I applied for it. So when I did not get the position, I did feel, as though I was in a stump. I did feel as though, you know, I like, what are you going to do next? Like, this is just a downfall. Like, I was beating myself up so bad about it. But I have always told myself at the end of it, everything happens for a reason. That's always like my end of it, is everything happens for a reason, and God has a better plan for you. There's something else. You're not supposed to be in that position at that moment in time, and God has something else planned for you. What I also do, and what I also did, was I started to do my research. Okay, so what is it that that person had, or what is it that they were looking for that I didn't have at that time? And I started building on that. I started networking more. My networking skills became even stronger at that, as to get out there, speak with more individuals, and just see what I needed to add to my resume. and get advice from upper management. So what do I need? So if this opportunity was to ever present itself again, what do I need so I don't miss it and what they were looking for? And, I just prayed about it. And like I said, I said, you know what? God has a better plan for you. There's something else that's going to end up coming up. And now it's just not the time. And I still had like a year probably left for my bachelor's degree. So, those were just my two strategies that I used to help me just to stay focused and not deter myself. Like, you do have your moments where you sit there and you are most allowed to have those moments where you're like, this is not working out, like what's going on. Like, you're allowed to have your panic moments. Like, what is going on? I applied, I didn't get it, and it's a disappointing time. But then pick yourself up after that. Do not sit there and continue to let that feeling overtake you. You need to get up and just, what's the next plan? Where do I go from here? So.
Yolanda, you are such an incredible example of just being so self-motivated and so driven that I hope that our listeners are inspired like we are, because this is just really refreshing to me. And I'm truly grateful for you sharing this, because I think it's so easy for all of us to feel stuck at times, right? To feel like we don't know what's next. And I can't say that I haven't felt that myself before too. Sometimes you just really don't know what is next. And it's hard to always keep that trust that God's there for you and that he's watching out for you. But what are the signs on what I'm supposed to do to get there? And you just shared that. Put yourself out there, network, ask questions, build that resume up, and figure out what you need to do to be the best candidate the next time around. Do you have any other things that you can share with our audience in regards to those who feel stuck or unfulfilled maybe in their role at this time? What advice do you have for them?
So for me, going back to what I said with just building up your resume and networking, and a lot of times when we think networking, yes, it is about reaching out and asking for advice and, speaking to your upper management, but it also has a lot to do with your persona. If you're in a position where you feel that, this doesn't feel right anymore, this is not for me, or I'm unhappy, or I want to do something else with my life, you have to also meet God halfway with that. Like, he's going to listen to you and he's going to do his part. Management is going to do their part, but you also have to get up and do your part as well. Because if you continue to stay in that position that you're not happy in or you don't feel fulfilled in, it will start to reflect in your job. And a lot of people don't really speak about how they're feeling a lot to others. And the only thing outsiders will see is your performance and the way you are as an individual and your work ethics. And if you're not feeling the greatest at your job or with the position you're in, that's going to reflect in your work. And you don't want to have yourself in that position or others. So then you have to use that to get yourself to where you want to be. And then you have to show people, like, listen, I know what I want and I'm here for it. And I'm not going to stop until I get it. And people see that, like the way you are towards people, your attitude. Like, I remember at one point I worked in food service, and no matter how bad the day was or what I was going through, when I stepped through those doors and I got on the floor with my nurses and my patients, I had a smile on my face at all times, no matter what it was going on. And I was able to build a relationship from that because I was welcoming. I always had a smile on my face. I would talk to them. So the amount of relationships I have built in Advent Health Zephyr Hills, the family that I've created with so many different departments, nurses, EVS, volunteers, like, it's amazing. So it's not just about, the networking and the professional side of it, but just the personal side of it. Just make sure that you just stay positive, even on days when you don't feel like it, because you never know who's watching. You just never know. But also do your part, do your due diligence, because they're also watching that. Like, okay, you're coming to me about this, or you're asking about this. So what are you also bringing to the table as well? That's going to be that part. Someone is always watching. And that's how I was able to get into the position where I'm at right now, is because when anyone approached me, they're like, well, we saw you, or we are hearing word about you that you're doing this, or you're doing that, or somebody said that this, you're this or you're that. So without you even realizing it, you're there and you're being seen. So to get yourself out of what you're currently in, it's all in you first and foremost. And it's a mental thing. It's definitely a mental thing. And that's the hardest part. no other part is harder than getting out of your own mind and being able to say, I can do this. I can do this. Even this morning, driving on my way here to do this podcast, I was like, you can do this. Like, why are you, psyching yourself? You've always loved being on platforms since you were a kid. And now you have the opportunity. So you can definitely do this, So that would be my advice to you guys.
Yeah, thank you. That truly means so much. And the fact that you keep yourself so positive is incredible, and it shines through in the way that you speak. I know, obviously, there's probably a lot of people who watch and listen to this who have never met you, but within this short time together can sense your attitude and your persona, and that your attitude is everything, and that it's brought you to where you are today because you've kept yourself positive, and that smile means so much to everyone, I'm sure, that has seen you and worked with you. So thank you so much for that. I think that's a beautiful reminder.
Thank you, Sky.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you are on your journey of continuing education. Are there any future plans as far as, with your masters? What do you? I know you're planning something. As someone who has historically been a strategic person, can you give us a little insight as to maybe what your plans might be?
So, Brandon, with my MBA, honestly, I was not even planning on, actually, no, why am I saying that? I was planning on going back to school for my MBA. I already knew after I graduated. At first, I was like, no, this is it. But no, I graduated, and right after I graduated, I remember telling some of my friends, like, I'm going back for my MBA. I am going back for my MBA. I gave myself like 8 months, and I was back in school for my MBA. And my goal from the time I was in school for my bachelor's was to make it into the C-suite, to work with a team and be a part of a C-suite. And the game plan is to make it to Orlando Celebration. I want to be a part of that team. I absolutely love Orlando, the city. I plan on moving there eventually, but I would love to be a part of the Orlando team and work with Advent Health Orlando Hospital. So that's my game plan with that and getting my MBA. And honestly, the push came from my former director. She was the one who encouraged me because even though I knew I wanted to go back to school, I was still kind of like unsure as to, okay, well, what are you planning on doing? And my director at the time, she said, you are so good at the way you organize stuff and the way you deal with these invoices and the way you just keep this office together, especially with the accounting part of it and the numbers. And she had told me, like, I really think you should go back to school to get your MBA in accounting. So that was my push right there from her, to go back to school and say, like, you know what, you got this, you can do this. So, and I think that was also, my answer from God as well, with her just randomly saying that one day to me, to push me to go back and to collaborate with me wanting to be a part of a C-suite team. Now, is it going to happen overnight right after I graduate? No, probably not. We're going to have to work towards that. There's going to be different avenues I'm going to have to take. Once again, networking. And I'm so proud to be a part of the team that I'm in because it has opened so many doors and I've met so many amazing people and I've been able to sit beside directors and CEOs and CFOs and to see how they work and how they collaborate. So that means the world to me. Like, Advent Health has opened up so many avenues for me, and to get to sit there, to get to be here with you guys, like, this is surreal for me. So I know that I'm currently on the right path right now, and that's basically my plan with my MBA is to make it into that C-suite.
Wow. I am just completely blown away. And anyone that is watching, hopefully from Advent Health Celebration, you're looking at your next CEO. So just remember this. This will this will be saved forever. And Brandon and I got to speak to you first. So yeah, we are just blown away by that. That is incredible. But Yolanda, to have that drive and motivation to know where you want to be and to have that faith in yourself, because it's clear you believe in yourself as well. And that's a big part of it. Like you said, your mentality of knowing you can get to where you need to be if you put the work in. I fully believe that you will get to where your dream is because you have that mindset. And it's a great reminder for all of us that don't have small dreams. You're the one who controls the size of your dreams and where you end up. So dream as big as you can, right? And I'm personally very motivated by that. So thank you, Yolanda.
Thanks, Sky.
Mm-hmm. And as far as one of the things you shared with us in regards to Advent Health, you've shared how much Advent Health has impacted your life and your career overall, but you shared with us that it's far beyond a job for you. So how would you describe what your journey here has meant to you?
So from the time I was hired and to the point where I'm at right now, the journey for me is the people that I've met along the way. From my hiring manager, Luke, and they're both, their names are Luke, the HR person that hired me, and the conversation I had with him, how welcoming it was to just sit there. And it was one of the best interviews I've had. Um, and being hired through Luke and then meeting my actual manager in dietary, who his name was Luke as well. Just everyone that I have met along the way that has helped me to be where I'm at today. Nardine, Mandy, Becky Mungir from orthopedics, Carly, Tammy Rao, have all helped me to become the person I am, in this company and just the company in general, helping me with my school, because I would not have been able to afford my MBA if it wasn't for Advent Health. I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't, even if I wanted that dream, I couldn't afford to go back to school, and helping me with my bachelor's as well, to help me with financially with that as well. And it's just the people that you meet really allows you to want to be a part of this company and this journey. Everyone from Maria and EVS, just everybody, or it's just a family at Advent Health. And that is part of my journey right there, is the people that I've met along the way, the people who have encouraged me, the doctors, the physicians, Ms. John-Ann, who would always stop and say how proud she is of me. Like, that's my motivation right there. That's my journey right there, is to speak on those who helped me to get where I'm at, even on the good days and the bad days. All the nurses on the floors who used to help me pass out trays when I was behind with food service. Those were the days that encouraged me to continue to be a part of this company and to continue my education. And that's why I want to stay here and be a part of this company.
So Yolanda, I appreciate you sharing that. And I wanted to ask, how does Advent Health allow you to feel fulfilled outside of work?
So with outside of work, I will say that when I step out of my office, when I step out from Advent Health Zephyr Hills and I'm in the community, and even if it's not networking, just with my family, just with my friends, whenever I talk to my mom about my job, there's not a time that goes by that she doesn't say how proud she is of me, and that she's proud that I'm part of the company that I'm with, and that, it's a good company. And just being able to talk to my friends and even the people that don't even know about Advent Health, when they ask me, like, what do you do? What's your job? I'm able to proudly say I work for Advent Health and I'm a case management coordinator. And at the end of the conversation of them saying, like, wow, that's amazing. That's so cool that you do what you do. Just having that piece of my work life to carry with me throughout, like, my personal life, and to be proud of that and be able to stand here and say, listen, my job has infiltrated my life. Like, it is my life, having that there, and also wanting to do more, because being able to say, like, hey, yeah, I definitely want to be a part of the C-suite and get my MBA. No, that's not just the end of that. I want to help my community. I want to give back. I want to give back to everyone. I want to give back to the younger generation. I want to help the elderly. I want to make sure that, Advent Health makes a difference. And if there's a way that I can do that, I want to do that in my personal life as well. I want to get out there and be a part of the community and show them and help them in whatever way I can. So that is basically, why I'm doing what I'm doing right now. So that would be
Thank you.
fulfilling, my work outside.
Yeah, it's something that sets Advent Health apart for so many of us that are here at this organization, that we know we're working for a purpose greater than ourselves, whether we're on the clinical or non-clinical side of things. And the fact that you mentioned that it infiltrates all parts of your life and that you have that pride is a wonderful takeaway from the conversation, because no matter if you're going to join this organization or if you're listening in another country and don't have the opportunity to join us, or a state that we're not located in, but you just need to find a place, right, that you feel that higher calling and that purpose to drive you each day and to allow you to have that pride. That's where you've landed and you found the company that you're supposed to be with. So Yolanda, thank you. We are just so grateful for the conversation that we've had with you today. It's been truly inspiring to me, and you've gotten me motivated to get myself out there and ask those questions and to dream big. I think that's another takeaway that I've certainly gotten from this as well. But we just thank you for being here, and we thank our listeners, of course, for listening to the Whole Career Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform to stay up to date with the latest episodes. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, feel free to reach out to us on our Instagram at Life at Advent Health. Until next time, take care. Thank you.